What's up, everybody? Today I am here to review Give Yourself Goosebumps, Special Edition number 1, Into the Jaws of Doom. I just completed this book, and this book is very different from any other GYG book in that there are double the amount of pages, and there are 2 pages per page. So let me show you an example here. So you have page 38, 39, 40, and 41. So you essentially have 4 pages on each page. And they're all very short, so there's not a whole lot of reading necessarily, as much as you're just making a lot more decisions in this book than you would typically with the GYG. There's many more choices in this book. It's almost, not quite, but almost double the length of a normal GYG. There's almost twice the amount of endings in this one. I believe there is, I did a rough count, and I counted like 37, 38 endings. Then I looked at the Goosebumps wiki page for this book, and it said there's 40, so I might have just miscounted. There probably are 40 endings in this book, whereas the typical GYG has like 20 to 25 endings. So yeah, this one is almost double the length, and this book is actually really cool. So this one is almost straight up gameplay, puzzle solving. Yeah, there's really not a lot of story to this one. This one is it feels like a video game version of a book, and I really enjoyed it. You're basically just going around collecting items and trying to figure out how to escape this incredible hall of science where you are trapped. And the story opens up where you're in this hall of science, like this giant museum that has multiple floors. And you were on like a class field trip, I think, and you got left behind. You were like playing a computer game or something, and you got locked in overnight. And this evil like supercomputer has taken over this building and is like controlling all of the electronics and security cameras and basically everything in this entire building. And you have to traverse the several floors of this museum and collect different items along the way and basically figure out how to escape. And I've heard a lot of mixed things on this book, and some people say that they don't like it, that it's too difficult and too confusing. And I will admit it is one of the more challenging GYGs to complete, with there only being one good ending and there being so many different options and so many different endings and just things along the way. But I think it's laid out actually pretty well. I enjoy the formatting of this book. And there's a lot of hints and clues along the way to kind of help you. And it's not quite as difficult and confusing as I expected it to be, or like from what I've heard others say about this book. But yeah, so how this book is laid out is there's a total of 4 floors. Really, you only go through 3 of them. But you start on the 4th floor and work your way down. And there's a map for each floor. Let me see if I can find one real quick. So this one actually isn't the 4th floor. This is just the first one I turned to show you guys an example. This one is the 3rd floor here. So there's a map here. And on each floor, there is 2 main rooms you can visit. And each floor you're on is like a central hub area, and you can, after you visit like each room, you can return back to that floor, like go to the other room. And within each room, there are like 2 to 3 exhibits each that you can visit. And sometimes you will have to go to a certain exhibit first in order to collect a certain item, in order to get past an obstacle in another exhibit in the other room. So sometimes you do have to do a little bit of backtracking, going back and forth. Some people might find this to be a little bit too much and too overwhelming. I could totally understand that, but I had a blast with this book. So once you complete the 1st floor, or the 4th floor I should say, like I said, you start at the top and kind of work your way down. You have to like go to the stairs, and then it leads you down to the 3rd floor. And then from there, there's a couple more rooms with various exhibits in each room. And this book does kind of help you like figure out what to do exactly. For example, there will be, if you try to go to a certain exhibit in one room, it will tell you that you need a certain item in order to do a certain part of this exhibit, or get like to overcome some kind of obstacle or something in your way. And then in parentheses below that, it will tell you, hint, the item you're looking for is on this same floor in this other room, or something along those lines. So there's some hints along the way. There's also this character in the story named PDA. And PDA is kind of this disembodied, I'm not sure, character figure, this voice that's talking to you periodically throughout the story through various electronic systems. He speaks to you a couple of times through like walkie-talkies and computers and things like that. And he basically tells you that he's trapped by this super evil computer and he needs your help to defeat the computer, and thus you can escape from this incredible hall of science. And throughout the way, he also provides you with little tips and some directions and things on like what to do and where you should go next. So you do have a little bit of like a guiding hand kind of to help you along the way. And it definitely makes the book a little bit easier, a little bit more bearable to get through. It's not quite as overwhelming and just super difficult like you might think for those of you who might be a little bit apprehensive about going into this. Now, I will say that with this book being mostly straight up gameplay, there's really not a lot of story to it. And some people might not like that at all, which I can understand that. Like I said, it's pretty much the story is it's this evil supercomputer that's taken over this hall of science. You don't really get much explanation as to why or how this is. And there's really not a lot of reading in between choices. So with most GYGs, you might read 4, 5, sometimes up to like 6 pages before you even get to an option to where you can make that splits off to different routes. In this book, there's an option or choice pretty much every single page you flip to, or at the least like every other page. I don't think in this book you'll find an instance where you read for more than 3 pages without coming across another choice to make. And the pages are also very short, even though there's 4 pages or like 4 sections on a page. As you can see, they're very short. They're all like a paragraph each. So yeah, very little story to this book, pretty much all gameplay. But I love that about it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I did run into a lot of dead ends along the way, especially at first. I think the 4th floor might have been the hardest one, which is the first one that you start on. But this also might be because I had just started the book. I wasn't really that familiar with it yet. Didn't know what I was getting myself into. So I think maybe that was the reason I had the hardest time on that first floor. And I'm typically pretty good with like forming a mental image in my mind of the layouts of these books and the maps. I'm usually like pretty good with that. And I was able to kind of keep up with this book after I got past that first floor. Like I said, I had the hardest time with that one. I ran into quite a few dead ends. But after that, things went pretty smoothly. There were a couple areas I struggled on a little bit to get through, but for the most part, I was able to get through it pretty quickly. There's one section on the 3rd floor, I believe, called the Maze of Mirrors. In this portion of the book, there are just endless choices and options you can make where you essentially go into this hall of mirrors, and it's just like a giant mirror maze in like a fun house or something. And every single choice you make leads to another choice, and every choice is along the lines of, do you want to turn east? Do you want to turn west? You come to another junction. Do you want to keep going north? Do you want to keep going south? You move 25 paces north. You come to another junction, and it's just endless choices like that. And I feel like this portion of the book might drive some people absolutely batty. And at first, when I came across this, I'm like, oh boy, this could be grounds for me wanting to throw the book out the window. But somehow, I don't know how, by some miracle, I made it through the mirror maze without getting stuck or running into a single dead end. I don't know how, but I managed to. And then, once you reach the end of the mirror maze, there's something that happens. You collect a certain item that you need, and then you have to go back. But when you get to the end of the mirror maze, you don't just like leave and go off to another area. You actually have to go back through the mirror maze, through another long series of options. And you basically have to remember how you got to the end, because all of the options are exactly like the opposite of what you just did. So if you like went north, east, north, you're going to, on the way back, you're going to be having to go south, west, south, and it's just endless options like that. It's just, yeah, it's literally a maze. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed that, but I might not have enjoyed it so much if I had gotten stuck a bunch of times. Just out of curiosity, I actually went back through the mirror maze after I had gotten through it, just to kind of like see what some of the endings were if you did run into dead ends. But yeah, somehow I managed to make it all the way through and back without hitting a single dead end. So yeah, that was pretty cool. That was really my only stroke of luck though in this entire book. I did run into several other dead ends throughout, outside of that mirror maze portion. But yeah, this book was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the gameplay function of it because in the formatting, like I said, I really like how it's laid out, how it's split up into 3 different floors with a couple rooms and then exhibits per room. It makes it easier to keep track of. And I feel like with what they were doing here, the concept, I feel like it's pretty well executed in my opinion. I do have some negatives with it. There are a lot of choices in here that are luck based. So at the beginning of the book, it tells you to get like a piece of paper to write down, like your inventory, items you collect, and to write down the number of the pages that have the maps on them so you can look back at the maps and refer to them if you need to. And then it also tells you to grab a pair of dice to roll because there are a lot of options you can come across where you have to roll dice, and depending on what number you roll, that's the page you have to turn to. I could have done without that. I feel like that's just kind of lazy writing and filler. We don't need any luck-based choices. It's not necessary. I think with those luck-based choices, they could have just taken them out completely and made it by default to turn to the page to continue the story. Or in some instances, I think they could have replaced those luck-based choices with choices where you have to decide based on logic. I'm not a fan of the just chance-based stuff. I don't like that at all. And there's quite a bit of that in here, unfortunately. And I did play through this book, honestly, for the most part. In terms of, like, collecting the certain items that I needed to, when I got to certain pages where it tells you can't progress unless you have a certain item, for example, I wouldn't do that unless I, went back and actually found the item. So I played through this book pretty truthfully. But when it came to the luck-based options, at first, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll roll some dice. Not an actual physical pair of dice, but I looked up on Google. You can roll a dice real quick on Google, just like a little virtual thing. I did that a couple times. But then after that, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to keep doing that. I'm just going to randomly guess when I get to these chance-based options because, yeah, that's stupid. I'm not going to sit there rolling dice over and over again until I land on the right number. So, yeah, that's a kind of a big negative, unfortunately. But one other negative, too, that I do have. This one is also kind of a big negative. So I mentioned that there's only one good ending in this book. And even though this isn't the most difficult thing in the world, it is a little bit of a challenge still. And it takes a while to get through this and complete it. And when you finally get to that good ending, it is such a letdown. I'm like, man, when I was reading this, the good ending that we get for this, the one true ending, it better be something really good. My character in this book better win $1 million or something. But the one true ending we get to this for defeating the evil supercomputer is such a letdown. It's so dumb. It's not good at all. It makes it doesn't completely ruin it, but yeah, it sucks. I was not a fan of that. There's also a puzzle in here too on the second floor, which is the last floor that you're on, and it was like an abacus puzzle, and it requires math and counting, which I am terrible at. I apparently don't know how to read an abacus because I'm an idiot. There's even instructions on how to do it, but I struggled with that puzzle. And then after looking at it for a while, and I thought, okay, I think I might have this figured out. And then when I got to the portion of the story where it is required for you to basically use your answer for the abacus puzzle, there's multiple choices listed, different numbers. None of the numbers were the ones that I had guessed what it would be. So at that point, I just kind of randomly picked one. I think I got the first one wrong, and then the second one I got right. So yeah, there's an abacus puzzle in here too that I was too stupid to figure out. But yeah, overall, this book was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I really went into this a little bit apprehensive, like I said, because I've heard some very mixed things on this book. And I don't think it's for everyone. I don't think everyone will enjoy how daunting this book is and how many different endings and paths and routes there are to this. And I don't think everyone will also like the fact that there's not much story to it. And like I said, it's mostly just gameplay and just endless amounts of choices. But I kind of like that because it's different. We don't have another GYG that's like this. Sure, there's other books in the series that have puzzles and game function as well. And I do enjoy those ones also. But this one is just offers up a little bit more of a challenge, a little bit more of a unique experience. And it reminds me of like a video game version of a book. It's just, I don't know. I really enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, my negatives with it were kind of big. Really just the final ending and then all the luck-based choices in here. Those are really just my big two negatives with it. But it still knocked my rating down quite a bit. So where I decided to settle on a rating for this book is, I think, a 4 out of 5 stars. If all of those luck-based options had been removed and this book had a better final ending, I think I would have given this like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. Definitely one of the better ones in the series. Like I said, I just don't think it will be everyone's cup of tea. It does have its flaws, but yeah, it's a ton of fun. I really enjoyed this book. That's Into the Jaws of Doom, the very first special edition GYG. Have you guys read that book? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.